The golden facade Marcus Harrington adjusted his custom Brioni tie as his driver navigated through San Francisco's financial district. At 46, he possessed everything society deemed valuable. Founder and CEO of Prism Technologies, a $78 billion company that had revolutionized quantum computing, a stunning modernist home overlooking the Pacific, and a wife whose brilliance had once captivated him as much as her beauty. The thought of Vivian brought a familiar twinge of guilt. 15 years of marriage had slowly transformed from passionate partnership to cordial coexistence. They still presented the perfect couple at industry functions. Him with his salt-and-pepper hair and commanding presence, her with her graceful poise and strategic mind that had helped build Prism from nothing. But behind closed doors, they moved in separate orbits, connected by habit rather than desire. "We've arrived, Mr. Harrington," his driver announced, pulling up to the gleaming Prism headquarters. Marcus stepped out, nodding to employees who parted like a human sea. His assistant Trevor fell into step beside him, rattling off the day's schedule. "The design team needs final approval on the Helios project interface by noon. The board packet requires your signature, and Ms. Novak has submitted her concepts for the new Innovation Center atrium." At the mention of Sophia Novak, Marcus felt a flutter in his chest that had become all too familiar over the past 3 months. "Tell her I'll review them personally. Schedule a meeting in my office at 2. Trevor's expression remained professionally neutral, though Marcus wondered if the frequency of these private meetings had raised suspicions. He dismissed the thought. His personal life was his own business, even if that personal life now included stolen moments with the brilliant young designer his company had hired for their global headquarters expansion. In his office, Marcus scanned through financial reports without truly seeing them. His mind wandered to Sophia, 32, with a quiet intensity and creative vision that had first impressed him professionally, then captivated him personally. Their first kiss had happened late one evening after reviewing blueprints, an impulsive moment that should have ended with apologies. Instead, it had ignited something Marcus had thought long extinguished. His phone buzzed with a message from Vivian. "Confirming I'll be in London until Thursday for the Foundation Board meeting. Don't forget the Andersons' dinner tomorrow night." Marcus typed a quick acknowledgement, relief mingling with shame. Vivienne had thrown herself into their philanthropic foundation after stepping back from Prism's operations 3 years ago. Her frequent travel had made his relationship with Sophia easier to maintain, yet harder to justify. At precisely 2 o'clock, Sophia entered his office, portfolio in hand. She closed the door behind her, professional until the click of the lock engaged. "I've been thinking about you all day," she said, her voice low. Marcus crossed the room, taking her face in his hands. "This isn't just an affair for me, Sophia." "You know that, right?" She nodded, leaning into his touch. "Then when do we stop hiding?" "I'm tired of being your secret." The question hung between them, the same one he'd been avoiding for weeks. In the distance, he could see the Golden Gate Bridge, partially obscured by fog rolling in from the bay, not unlike the haze that clouded his judgment whenever Sophia was near. "Soon," he promised, knowing the word was both vague and dangerous. "After the Innovation Summit next month? I'll have a plan by then." What Marcus didn't know was that across town, Vivian Harrington was boarding a private jet not to London, but to meet with her own attorney, having already sensed that something in her carefully constructed world had begun to crumble. Whispers in the shadows. The California sun cast long shadows across Sophia Novak's loft as Marcus traced patterns on her bare shoulder. These stolen afternoons had become his sanctuary, moments of passion and connection far from the pressure of being Marcus Harrington, tech visionary and business titan. "Tell me about New York," she murmured, propping herself up on one elbow. "If I get the commission for your East Coast headquarters, I want to understand your vision." Marcus smiled, admiring how Sophia's mind never truly disconnected from her creative process, even in their most intimate moments. It was one of countless things that drew him to her, how her artistic brilliance complemented his technological one. "My vision includes you by my side, not just designing the building, but helping shape the future of Prism," he said, kissing her forehead. I meant what I said yesterday. After the Innovation Summit, everything changes. Sophia's eyes held a mixture of hope and doubt. You've been saying that for weeks, Marcus. I understand the complications, but sometimes I wonder if you'll ever actually leave her. The mention of Vivian shifted the atmosphere in the room. Marcus sat up, reaching for his watch on the nightstand. It's not that simple. Our finances are completely entangled. She holds 20% of Prism's shares, sits on the board, and runs our foundation. So it's about the money? Sophia's voice cooled. No, Marcus insisted, though the quickness of his response betrayed him. It's about doing this right. A public scandal could tank our stock price, trigger board intervention. I need to be strategic. What Marcus didn't say was that despite the emotional distance between them, he still harbored a deep respect for Vivian. Breaking their marriage felt like breaking a promise, not just to her, but to the younger, more idealistic version of himself who had pledged his life to her before either of them had achieved success. Across the bay in Sausalito, Vivian Harrington sat in her home office, staring at her computer screen with perfect posture that belied her inner turmoil. The private investigator's report displayed photographs of Marcus entering Sophia's building, time-stamped visits that coincided with his supposed late meetings. The evidence was irrefutable, yet strangely, Vivian felt more resignation than shock. Perhaps she had known for months. The late nights, the distracted conversations, the way Marcus's eyes no longer sought hers across crowded rooms. The passionate partnership that had built Prism Technologies had faded into a business arrangement cloaked as a marriage. Vivian closed the file and opened her financial portfolio instead. As the daughter of a financial advisor who had lost everything in a scandal, she had always maintained financial independence, even while helping build Marcus's empire. What her husband didn't know, what no one knew, was that Vivian had been quietly diversifying her assets for the past 2 years. Mrs. Harrington, her assistant Delia, appeared in the doorway. Dr. Forrester called about the Foundation's new cancer research initiative. And I've confirmed your schedule for the Innovation Summit next month. Thank you, Delia, Vivian replied, her voice steady. Please tell Dr. Forrester I'll call him back this afternoon. And could you schedule a meeting with Patricia Winters at Meridian Ventures for tomorrow? As Delia left, Vivian turned to the window overlooking the bay. Patricia Winters wasn't just any venture capitalist. She was one of the most powerful women in tech and a direct competitor to Prism's quantum computing division. The meeting would be the first move in a chess game Vivian had been contemplating for longer than she cared to admit. Back at Prism headquarters, Trevor watched Marcus return from his lunch meeting with a slight flush to his cheeks and a distracted smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. As Marcus's executive assistant for 8 years, Trevor had observed the gradual dissolution of the Harringtons' once enviable partnership. He had also noticed how Sophia Novak's design consultations always ran long and occurred behind closed doors. Trevor's loyalty had always been to both Harringtons equally. Which is why, when Vivian had called last week, asking seemingly casual questions about Marcus's schedule, Trevor had found himself in an impossible position. He hadn't lied, not exactly, but he hadn't volunteered information either. As preparations for the Innovation Summit accelerated, the whispers throughout Prism Technologies grew louder. Something was shifting in the company's carefully constructed hierarchy. Marcus spent hours with Sophia finalizing the design for the spectacular venue where he planned to announce Prism's revolutionary quantum processor. Meanwhile, Vivian methodically attended to foundation business, giving no indication that she suspected anything amiss in her marriage. But in the shadows between public appearances and private rendezvous, 3 lives were careening toward a collision that would reshape them all. The Innovation Summit. The Prism. Innovation Summit transformed San Francisco's Presidio into a futuristic wonderland. Glass pavilions showcased cutting-edge technology against the backdrop of the Golden Gate Bridge. Tech luminaries, venture capitalists, and media personalities mingled amid holographic displays and interactive exhibits, all designed by Sophia Novak. Marcus stood at the center of it all, resplendent in a tailored charcoal suit, fielding questions from a CNBC reporter about Prism's quantum breakthrough that would be unveiled that evening. His confidence was magnetic, drawing people into his orbit, the very quality that had built his empire. "Mr. Harrington, the tech world is buzzing about tonight's announcement," the reporter said. "Any hints about what revolutionary innovation Prism has developed?" Marcus offered his practiced smile. "All I can say is that what we're revealing tonight will fundamentally change computing as we know it. The quantum future isn't coming, it's already here." As the interview concluded, Marcus scanned the crowd until he found Sophia near one of her installations, a luminescent sculpture representing quantum entanglement. In a burgundy gown that highlighted her olive complexion, she looked every bit the accomplished designer, not the secret lover of the company's married CEO. Yet when their eyes met across the pavilion, the electric connection between them was palpable. Marcus excused himself from a group of investors and made his way toward her, maintaining a professional distance as he approached. "The space is magnificent," he said, loud enough for others to hear. "You've outdone yourself, Ms. Novak." "Thank you, Mr. Harrington," she replied with equal formality, though her eyes conveyed much more. "I'm particularly proud of the main stage design. Walk me through it before the presentation?" They moved toward the massive stage where Marcus would soon make his announcement, stepping behind the curtains, where they found momentary privacy. "You look breathtaking," Marcus whispered, letting his hand brush against hers. "Are you ready for tonight?" Sophia asked, meaning far more than his presentation. Marcus nodded. "I've made my decision. After the announcement, we'll be seen leaving together. The press will have their field day, but by next week, I'll have formally filed for divorce and we can stop hiding." Sophia's eyes widened. "Are you sure? What about everything you've been worried about? The board, the shares, your reputation? None of it matters anymore. I want a life with you, out in the open." What Marcus didn't know was that Vivian Harrington, supposedly in London, had quietly arrived at the summit 30 minutes earlier, dressed in a striking sapphire gown, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, accepting congratulations for Prism's success and deflecting questions about the Foundation's latest initiatives. Unlike her husband, Vivian had always been more comfortable behind the scenes, preferring strategy to spotlight. But tonight, she navigated the room with particular purpose, stopping to speak with board members, key investors, and select media representatives. "Vivian, I thought you were in London," exclaimed Prism's chief marketing officer, clearly flustered at her unexpected appearance. "I rearranged some meetings." "I wouldn't miss Marcus's big night," she replied smoothly. "Has my husband arrived yet?" "He's doing final preparations backstage, I believe." "With the designer, Ms. Novak." Vivian's smile never faltered. "Of course. Her work tonight is exceptional." As the evening's formal program began, guests took their seats in the amphitheater where Marcus would reveal Prism's quantum processor. Sophia sat in the front row, while Vivian chose a seat toward the middle, partially obscured by taller attendees, present but not immediately noticeable. The lights dimmed as Trevor took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the visionary founder and CEO of Prism Technologies, Marcus Harrington." Applause thundered through the venue as Marcus strode to center stage, commanding the room with his presence. Behind him, a massive screen illuminated with Prism's logo. "Tonight," Marcus began, his voice resonating with conviction, "we stand at the threshold of a new technological era. Prism's quantum matrix processor has achieved quantum supremacy at a scale previously thought impossible." As he detailed the breakthrough, Sophia watched with pride from her front row seat, already imagining their future together after tonight. Meanwhile, Vivian sat perfectly still, her expression inscrutable, her hand resting on a small tablet computer in her lap. "Before I reveal our full demonstration," Marcus continued, approaching the climax of his presentation, "I want to acknowledge the people who made this possible. Our brilliant engineering team, our loyal investors, and..." His eyes found Sophia's, a moment too intimate for a professional acknowledgement. "Those who have inspired us to reach higher." The audience applauded again, unaware of the currents shifting beneath the surface of Marcus's carefully orchestrated evening. As he prepared to unveil the processor itself, Trevor appeared at the side of the stage, approaching with obvious hesitation. "Excuse me for one moment," Marcus said into the microphone, stepping aside to speak with his assistant. "Sir," Trevor whispered urgently, "Mrs. Harrington is here. She's requested to say a few words before the demonstration." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "Vivian is in London." "No, sir. She's here. And she's already informed the stage manager she'll be speaking." Before Marcus could respond, the stage lights shifted and Vivian Harrington was walking toward him. Applause rising to greet the woman known as the strategic genius behind Prism's early success. Her smile was composed, her walk confident as she approached her husband. Marcus managed to mask his shock with a stiff smile as Vivian reached for the microphone, their hands briefly touching in the exchange, perhaps the most contact they'd had in months. No one in the audience could have guessed that this unplanned moment would change everything. Least of all, Sophia, who suddenly found herself unable to breathe as she watched the wife of the man she loved take center stage. The Reckoning. "Thank you, Marcus." Vivian's voice carried through the amphitheater with unexpected warmth. She turned to face the audience, her sapphire gown catching the stage lights. "And thank you all for being here on this momentous night for Prism Technologies." Marcus stood frozen at the edge of the stage, mind racing through scenarios, each worse than the last. In the front row, Sophia sat equally rigid, her knuckles white against the burgundy fabric of her dress. "For those who don't know me well," Vivian continued, "I'm not just Marcus Harrington's wife. 15 years ago, I wrote the business plan that secured Prism's first round of funding. I developed the market strategy that positioned our quantum research against established competitors. And for 10 years, I led operations while Marcus became the face of our vision." The audience listened in rapt attention. This wasn't the usual spousal acknowledgement they had expected. 3 years ago, I stepped back to focus on our foundation, believing Prism was in capable hands. Her gaze swept across the crowd, deliberately avoiding Marcus. Tonight's breakthrough is indeed revolutionary, not just for computing, but for what it represents about human potential. Vivian tapped something on her tablet, and the massive screen behind her changed from Prism's logo to a complex financial chart. Innovation requires not just technical brilliance, but integrity. Vision must be matched with values. Her voice remained steady, almost conversational, which is why I've spent the past 6 months developing something of my own. The chart expanded, revealing a new corporate structure. Today, I'm announcing the formation of Lumina Systems, a separate entity focused on applying quantum computing to climate science, medical research, and humanitarian challenges. Murmurs rippled through the audience as investors and journalists began to comprehend what was happening. Funded by my personal Prism shares, which, as of this morning, I've transferred to this new benefit corporation. Vivian paused as gasps echoed through the venue. Lumina will partner with research institutions globally to ensure this technology serves humanity's greatest needs, not just its most profitable markets. Marcus stepped forward, his face a mask of controlled panic. "Vivian, perhaps we should discuss this privately. I've had Delia place the full press release and business plan on all of your seats," Vivian continued smoothly, addressing the audience rather than her husband. "You'll find that Lumina has already secured partnerships with MIT, Stanford, and the Gates Foundation. And I'm pleased to announce that Patricia Winters of Meridian Ventures has joined as our chief investment strategist." The revelation sent another shockwave through the room. Patricia Winters was not just any investor. She was Marcus's former business partner who had left Prism after a disagreement over the company's direction. Her presence in Vivian's new venture was a calculated statement. "As for Prism," Vivian said, finally turning to face Marcus, her voice softening slightly, "I wish nothing but continued success. Innovation thrives on competition, after all." The subtext was clear to everyone in the room, but especially to Marcus and Sophia. Vivian knew everything. Rather than create a public scandal, she had orchestrated something far more devastating. A brilliant business maneuver that simultaneously announced her independence and challenged Prism's market position. "Now," Vivian said, Handing the microphone back to Marcus with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "I believe we were about to see a demonstration of Prism's quantum processor. Please, don't let me interrupt such an important moment." Marcus took the microphone mechanically, his prepared remarks suddenly inadequate for the seismic shift that had just occurred. As Vivienne descended the steps on the opposite side of the stage from where she had entered, she paused beside Sophia's seat just long enough to place a business card on the armrest. "Your designs are extraordinary," she said quietly, audible only to Sophia. "When you're ready for a project with genuine purpose, Lumina would be honored to speak with you." Then Vivienne walked up the center aisle and out of the amphitheater, leaving behind a stunned audience, a humiliated husband, and a room full of investors already calculating the implications of what they had just witnessed. Echoes of consequence. 18 months after the Innovation Summit, Vivienne Harrington stood on the rooftop garden of Lumina Systems headquarters in Seattle, watching summer rain create ripples across Puget Sound. The building, an architectural marvel of sustainable design featuring living walls and regenerative energy systems, had already won 3 international awards and graced the cover of Architectural Digest. "The Geneva team is ready for your call, Ms. Harrington," said her new assistant, Amelia. "And Dr. Forrester has sent the preliminary results from the malaria vaccine trial. The quantum simulation has reduced development time by 63%. Vivienne nodded, taking a moment to appreciate how much had changed since that night in San Francisco. The divorce had been finalized within 3 months, surprisingly amicable given the circumstances. Marcus had not contested her departure from Prism, perhaps understanding it was the least messy outcome for both of them. What followed was unexpected. Rather than Prism's stock collapsing from the scandal, the tech world's attention had split between the former spouses, creating a rivalry narrative that kept both companies in the spotlight. Prism continued its commercial dominance, while Lumina quickly established itself as the conscience of quantum computing, attracting idealistic talent and mission-driven investment. "Tell Geneva I'll be there in 5 minutes, Vivienne said, turning from the window. As Amelia left, Vivienne's phone lit up with a news alert. Prism Technologies CEO steps down. Board names Trevor Adkins as interim successor. She hadn't spoken directly to Marcus since the divorce, but industry gossip had reached her through inevitable channels. After the summit, his relationship with Sophia had imploded spectacularly, not because of Vivienne's intervention, but because Sophia had gradually recognized that Marcus's promises were built on shifting sand. The woman who had been unwilling to remain a secret wasn't interested in becoming a public spectacle either. The irony wasn't lost on Vivienne. In losing her husband, she had found her true calling. Lumina's quantum systems were now accelerating climate modeling for environmental agencies, optimizing refugee resettlement programs, and revolutionizing drug discovery for neglected diseases. Across the country, in his Manhattan penthouse, Marcus Harrington sat alone, staring at the press release his communications team had prepared announcing his resignation. The official reason cited was his desire to pursue philanthropic interests and mentor the next generation of tech leaders. The reality was far more complicated. Without Vivienne's steadying influence, Marcus had made a series of increasingly erratic business decisions. The board's patience had finally expired after a failed acquisition attempt that had cost shareholders billions. His personal life had followed a similar trajectory. After Sophia left, he had briefly dated a succession of younger women, each relationship more superficial than the last. Yet somehow, his greatest professional rival had also become his most important legacy preserver. Vivienne's Lumina Systems had partnered with Prism on several humanitarian initiatives, lending ethical credibility to his company while ensuring Prism's technological innovations reached beyond profit-driven markets. Their companies were in many ways complementary. Prism pushing the boundaries of what was possible, Lumina ensuring those possibilities served humanity's greatest needs. Marcus signed the press release and closed his laptop. Tomorrow's headlines would frame his departure as the end of an era, but few would understand the personal reckoning that had brought him to this point. The man who had believed himself irreplaceable had watched from afar as both his company and his former wife flourished without him. In Seattle, Vivian entered the conference room where her team waited to connect with their Geneva partners. As she prepared to discuss Lumina's role in revolutionizing global health systems, a notification appeared on her tablet, a substantial anonymous donation to the Foundation's educational initiative for girls in technology. She didn't need to trace the source. The donation had arrived on the same date each quarter since Lumina's launch, always for the exact amount of Prism stock she had owned when they first met. It was Marcus's way of acknowledging what he had taken from her, and what she had built despite him. Vivienne dismissed the notification and focused on the task at hand. The past had shaped her, but it no longer defined her. She had discovered something far more valuable than revenge or vindication. She had found purpose. And in his empty penthouse, Marcus Harrington finally understood what Vivienne had known all along. True power wasn't found in accumulation or adoration, but in creation and contribution. It had taken losing everything to recognize that his greatest achievement wasn't the empire he had built, but the woman who had outgrown his shadow to build something even greater. In the end, their story wasn't about betrayal at all. It was about transformation. And in that transformation, both had finally found their truest selves.